Hi, this is Ashley T. Lee Podcast. Join me to hear the Bible read line by line and explained. Listen weekly to Ashley T. Lee Podcast. Your Chosen Truth Network podcast is starting in just a few seconds. Enjoy it, share it, but most of all, thank you for listening to the Truth Podcast Network.
This is the Truth Network. Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network.
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
Where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be persecuted for righteousness' sake? That's the question today. On Truth Talk Live, we would love to know from your perspective. What does it feel like to be persecuted for righteousness' sake? As it says in Matthew 5, right? Blessed are the persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does that feel like? 866, the number to call in and share your ideas. 866-348-7884. Maybe you have an insight into that verse. Some comment that this is a live show, and the reason that we do it is because we want to hear from you, the Truth Network listeners. 866-348-7884. So what does persecuted even mean to you? Is it a prison cell or a torture chamber? The rack? Burned at the stake? Fed to lions? Well, maybe you think less graphically. Maybe you think persecuted is like being turned down for promotion because you're too religious. Or maybe it's about being the object of slander or gossip. What does that feel like? What does it happen to you? Actually, I'm looking for a testimony. I always love those. Like, what did that actually happen in your life? 866-348-7884. You may know I'm the Christian car guy, and so as you're probably not surprised to know, I spent a lot of time in the car business. When I came to Winston-Salem, which is where the headquarters for the Truth Network is, many years ago, long before the Truth Network existed, but I knew Stu, as he was my rep for a radio station we now own, WSJS. But anyway, I was a baby. Well, I came to Christian in 91. I came to that dealership in 1993, and I was on fire, man. I was trying to figure out every way I could just tell people about God. And I was studying the Bible, having so much fun, learning. And so I just thought the natural thing to do at work was to start a Bible study, right? So I started a Bible study, and we got, quite a group of believers there at the dealership at the time. The dealership was flourishing. It went from, when I came there, it was selling maybe 25 cars a month, and it started selling over 100. So, things were looking really good. And the Bible study was, so much fun, and it was flourishing. And so, we decided to put God's name on our telephone. When people called in, they got put on hold. We shared our mission statement, which began with the help of God, we will become. And we had, it was just a culture. It became like a Christian culture there at the dealership. Well, one day, oh my goodness, I did not see this coming, not in any way, shape, or form, but there were two owners at the time, and one of them, came and sat down in my office and pretty much said, Robby, you've got to fire the used car manager, who was a good friend of mine and certainly a brother in Christ and all those kind of stuff. And he'd done really well. And I was president of Bob Neal at the time. And so I hadn't had many times my owner actually told me I had to fire somebody that I had hired that I actually thought well of. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, you've got to fire him because, the other owner doesn't care for him. And, I said, okay, well, that weekend, that person they wanted me to fire had a heart attack and he was in the hospital. Like, before I fired him, right? I hadn't fired him yet. It was like a Friday night afternoon that he told me that. He goes in the hospital on Saturday morning. And, at that point in my life, I had not known many people that had a heart attack. And I was just like freaked out because this guy was a good friend and I'm supposed to fire him. And so I called a meeting with that owner on Monday, and he came down, and I said, guys, I the man you want me to fire is in the hospital, and there's no way in the world I'm going to do that with him in the hospital. I just can't do it. I said, you demote me to be the used car manager, do whatever you want to do, but I cannot in good conscience fire this man. I mean, that's just what I can't do. And so about 2 hours later, he comes back in my office and he goes, well, I talked to the other owner, and here's what we decided. That if you will stop doing the Bible study at the dealership, if you will take the message off hold that mentions God's name, and if you will not mention God's name at all, especially in a sales meeting, then you don't have to fire that particular individual. And I'll never forget it as long as, like, man, because, I thought the idea was to, essentially sell cars, help customers, get great customer satisfaction. All those things were happening, but now I had a new angle that I just did not see coming. And I did not see it at all. And, I was like, okay, because at that point in time, I just couldn't fire this sales manager. And so, we met the group that was certainly the Bible study, whatever, and we prayed about it, and we all prayed about it, and we all thought, well, this is different. And so we started meeting actually off the premises long before, the dealership actually opened. We met at the, I think it's called the Piedmont Baptist Association building. It used to be not far from where the dealership was. But anyway, and we took the message off hold, and we did everything that they were supposed to, that they had asked us to do, and fascinatingly, they didn't make me fire that particular sales manager. Well, then it wasn't terribly long, and Robby was gone. Maybe a year and a half later, something like that. But and again, the dealership appeared to be, Chrysler sure loved us, and Chrysler offered us the dealership in Mocksville as a result of all that. And I, honestly, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, was that God opened up that door, because that ended up to the dealership in Mocksville, which later ended up with me doing the Christian Car Guy show. In other words, when I look at my life without that happening and me still being stuck at Bob Neal, I mean, what a horrible thing that would have been. But as it was, I got to experience it. What about you? When did you experience persecution? We need your call, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question, what does it feel like, really, in your situation, when maybe you experienced something that you thought, wow, that's what it feels like to be persecuted for righteousness' sake? We would love to, I would love to hear your story. 866-348-7884 is the number to call in and share. We'll get you right on, because all the lines are open. 866-348-7884. So, Nick, my faithful producer, how about you? Have you ever, when you say persecuted for righteousness' sake, you got a story?
Not right now. But give me a minute. I'm going to have to think about it. All right,
keep thinking. Well, I think it's fascinating that if you look at this idea in Hebrew and in Greek, you find some interesting things. That when it was translated from Greek, the word that's like dialo or something like that, I can't pronounce Greek too well, but I do know enough to look at the tenses. And in this word's case, it's in the perfect tense. And that means that they not only are, and the word persecute, both in Greek and in Hebrew, has to do with somebody coming after you, actually it being a priority. And so this person's coming after you in the perfect tense. In other words, they were always coming after you, and they're now coming after you, and they will continue to come after you. Again, because to some extent, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but spiritual forces in high places. And since they kind of knew that you were destined to be righteous, and so they're coming after you. So we got Christy. I'm excited about this. Christy is in High Point. Christy, what does it feel like to be persecuted for you?
To me, it's very personal. I'm very strong in my faith. I actually worked at a large business. I'm not going to mention it because it's very popular.
Right.
But I used to, in my emails, I would put "Have a blessed day." In my work area, I had my own office area, but it was a lot of people would come through that area, and I had a lot of biblical scriptures and stuff on the wall. Anybody would know I was a Christian that walked by. And that actually ended up costing me my job. There were some people there that were offended, say, "Have a blessed day," or blessings. And the supervisor, who was supposedly also a Christian, reprimanded me for that and told me that I had to remove that. And I told him, I was like, "You understand, you're a Christian. You will have to answer for this one day." So, yes, it was very frustrating that, the rights are stripped like that to appease people. They get their rights protected, but ours are taken away.
Wow. So there wasn't you just said "have a blessed day"?
Have a blessed day, yes.
And that was offensive.
Yes. And I didn't understand that. And come to find out, they had a group meeting, and it was brought up in a meeting. And there were some people that defended me, and there were others that, still found it offensive. So I wish I could have been in that meeting, but I was not invited to it. It was above my head. But I had no idea that I was offending people just by saying "have a blessed day." How can that be a bad thing? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm with you. But nonetheless, I can assure you that even though you don't necessarily have to say, people point you out for whatever reason, you have that glow that Christians have, and they're offended by your very presence.
Yes, and I actually wanted to set up a group meeting at this place. They had more than one floor, and they had empty offices, and I'd gone to one of the supervisors, and I said, "I would love to set up a group that we could meet and pray and talk about things like that." I said, "I won't let it interfere with work, won't let it interfere with breaks, because I know that they wouldn't go with that." But they shot it down. Because they said I think it was based on religion, but yet the people that rented the room that I wanted to have it in, it was a religious group. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess because they were making money off of it. I don't know. Maybe that was the difference, but.
It's wild, isn't it? Absolutely wild. What a story. And so, how long ago has that been, Christy, that happened?
That was about 10 years ago.
And so.
And I worked with coworkers that I would pray with and have these conversations with. I never hid my faith from anybody, my believing. I was always very open about it. But.
Are you now?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. I'm glad it didn't deter you. And so did it turn out to be a good thing that you don't work there anymore?
I think it did. I got kind of comfortable in the job, and I wasn't being challenged. And I had a group of friends that I thought were friends that, I went to lunch with for years. And we actually had a new coworker that came in that was not a Christian, that, her conversations were very offensive and her lifestyle. But I never said anything out of the way to her. I respected her. I never said anything to her. But she broke up that group, and they turned their back on me for whatever reason and just started hanging out with this other girl. And I said, this has got to be a God thing because I have done nothing wrong. So I think that God just removed me from that situation.
That's what he does. There's no doubt. But clearly it hurts because you don't understand, right?
Right. I love my job, and I love the friends that I lost. And I feel, to this day, it was very traumatic. And and I still think about it to this day, but I'm learning to let go of things and just, I trust in the Lord with whatever comes my way. I never question it because I know He has a plan, even though I don't understand it. So, but yeah, you're right. It is hard, and it can be very traumatic.
Yeah, because you just don't. You're like, what? Like, that's especially when it just says "Have a blessed day."
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you, Chris. I am so grateful for your call today, and you keep up the great work out there. Keep telling people to have a blessed day, and keep praying with them.
Absolutely, and I want to encourage anybody else out there that's gone through the same thing. The Lord will provide. When you're shining the light, He will put you where you need to be. Sometimes He puts us in dark places so the light can shine. So, I want to encourage others out there that may have gone through the same thing.
That's wonderful.
If they don't let them take that away, don't let them take that away from them.
That is awesome. Well, thank you for your call. You have a great weekend. It starts tomorrow, I'm told. All right. Bye-bye. God bless. All right. We have our old friend Mike is in Dayton, Ohio. And Mike, what's it like? What does it feel like to be persecuted?
Feels awful. It really does. I mean, it just feels rejected and awful, but then you realize, it's okay. I mean, God's going to take care of you. My story is when I was in San Diego, California, and I was doing curved staircases at the time, building curved staircases. And my one guy, he moved to Oregon, and so I was looking for jobs. And so I got a job doing curved staircases with this guy. And it was high-end.
Oh, no, Mike, we got to go to a break. I hear that music. And so you hold on to that staircase, right? We're
yeah.
We're going to take the stairs here in a minute. We'll be right back, but we need your call, 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. What does it feel like to be persecuted? We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. Today's question: What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be persecuted for righteousness' sake? 866-348-7884 is the number to call in and share. Does it necessarily got to be burned at the stake, or could it be that people just start making fun of you? What does that feel like for you? We want to take your call, 866-348-7884. When we left our hero Mike, he was fixing to take a step up. but it turned out so you were making curved staircases in California, San Diego.
Yes.
Is that where you weren't you in the Navy or something?
I was in the Marine Corps, and I met my wife out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and, that's a lot of bases in San Diego.
Yes, and I ended up doing curved staircases for a guy that was in a church. He had me come out to his job, and I helped him do that, and he taught me how to do it. And he moved to Oregon, and I ended up looking for jobs, and I got this job with this guy, and I'm doing curved staircases, and he comes to me and he says, Mike, you're just really too good. All the other guys are just really have animosity against you, and you're getting them done too fast. So what they would do is they pay you piecework when you got a job, and then when you get them done so fast, then you got paid the same amount no matter how long it took. And you're showing these other guys up how you're what's going on, and you're just doing it too good, and you're doing it too fast, and you're making too much money, and the other guys are really just envying you, and it's causing a lot of animosity in our business. And I said, okay. And he says, well, I'm going to put you in the custom end of in our business, and so you're going to do the higher end customs curved staircases. I said, okay, great, I'll do that. That's fine. I enjoy doing any of it. And so anyways, I did the high end custom areas, and the customers kept coming back to him and enjoying me and enjoying the quality and everything that's gone on. And he comes back to me and he says, Mike, you're doing a great job. You're just not fitting in here. I just don't know how to handle you. You're just really, people that work with you and the people that are around you, they just don't like you. And I says, oh, well, what am I doing wrong? He says, you're just different. You show up on time. You're just have a smile on your face. You enjoy your job. I am not kidding. I am not kidding. This is exactly what he said to me. He says, you just don't fit in here. And I says, okay, what are you going to do? And he says, well, I'll let you work here until you find another job. But when you find another job, you let me know, and I'll let you go. And then we'll just tell other people that you found another job. And I said, okay. And I found another job, and I got fired because I was too good for the job. I really did. I witnessed the people there, and they didn't like it. They would show up early, and they were doing some weird things in their office. And, I don't want to say it on air, but they were bad people. And I felt really, the devil against me there anyways. And then I'm like, and I never got fired for doing too good of a job. You know what I mean?
Yes, I can assure you.
Anyways.
Yeah, I bet you're not the only one out there who have experienced that, but there's lots of folks that
awful feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
The peer pressure is slow down. You're making us look bad. The peer pressure is.
That's exactly what.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to do that to my middle sister, which was older than me. She always kept her room clean. She always, helped with did everything that my parents said. And I can remember going to her and I'm like, Linda, for goodness sakes, you're making us look bad here. You gotta be a slacker somewhere. I don't care where she did her homework, everything. Like it was. So actually, Mike, I kind of know how your coworkers felt.
Right.
But it's not. You're exactly right, and I would hope that all of us could see that. But actually, there's in some ways, it's hard to be around somebody that does things right when you are trying to do things wrong.
Right. I mean, they want you to slow down. They don't want you to not work so hard. But again, we don't do it unto men. We do it unto God.
Oh, I love what you. And I have a wonderful relationship with my sister to this day. We talked the other day, and she has always done things right, and I'm always admired her. Unfortunately, there were times though I gave her a hard time because I was like, man, you can't keep this up. Can't you not make your bed one time? Is that something that's possible? But anyway, I love it, Mike. As always, I didn't see it come up. I will tell you this now. And again, if you're out there and you got a story, we would love for you to call in. We want to hear yours. 866-34.
I love hearing the stories.
I do too. 866.
It's wonderful.
348-7884. Well, I got to tell you this one. It always cracked me up. I do the Christian Car Guy radio show. A lot of people know that. And one time I was watching online, these people were commenting back and forth on how horrible it was to live in the Bible Belt. Some guy that was in California was commenting against somebody that was in North Carolina. He goes, well, let me tell you how bad it is in North Carolina. It's so bad, we have the Christian Car Guy.
That's funny. That's hilarious. Sorry, bro.
No, I think it's hilarious too. I'll never forget as long as I live. Like, oh man, you have it bad. Is the guy probably didn't know me from Adam, or whatever, but like, oh my goodness. But let me tell you that a lot of times that persecution comes from within the church.
Yeah, it does.
And that's saddest of all. Yeah. Well, and I don't know what it is.
That one hurts more than any of them. Wow, it does, doesn't it? Oh my.
Oh, I got a blistering email this week.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Don't be, because I'm like, okay, God, this is an opportunity here. But I spoke at a wonderful church in Greensboro on Saturday. And then to a really super large, unbelievable men's group. They had what they was called a man meal, and it was just a wonderful event on all sorts of levels. But, I got this, like I said, it was a 6-pager probably of telling me all, that I said that was, and here was the main idea that he was trying to, is that you say that you hear from God. Right? That was, he said, and so you're in disobedience with Scripture because Scripture is all, all that you should ever need. And clearly you don't go to the Bible. He's telling me this, and he doesn't know me well, obviously. And he didn't even sign his name. That was a sad thing. He said, obviously, you don't think the Scripture is the answer to all your problems. I'm like, and all this, if you just read this thing, it was like, oh my goodness, look at what this is. And that literally I was blaspheming. And what I had said was, in praying, this really got to him. I said, when you pray, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you need to listen twice as much. You need to listen twice as much as you speak, because hearing from God is where it all happens. And I know you personally, knowing you, how many times God told you to help that guy, right, that you ended up witnessing to, or God tells you, you hear that thing. But I'm going to tell you, you're like me. You hear more when hopefully you're praying the whole time you're in Scripture, and God's speaking to you like through those words. When the light comes on, that's God speaking to you, right?
Right.
And so I just told the guy, in my response to him, I said, my heart literally breaks for you because his sheep hear his voice. And I really think you're missing out on, and I said, I think you'd find me be a good friend. I'll meet with you anytime, any place. Would love to talk about this. Both of us will grow in Christ as a result. And, hopefully you'll meet with me somewhere. I can even maybe find out his name. But meanwhile, we have Steve. Mike, thank you for calling so much. As always, I love you, my friend, and we will talk soon. All right. We got Steve is in Coldwater, Ohio. I love the name of that town. Steve, you're on Truth Talk Live.
Hi, Robby. How are you?
I am wonderful. And I love Coldwater, Ohio. Where is it?
Coldwater is up by Salina. I've called in before as Steve from Mercer County, but I kind of live between those two towns.
Oh, well, I hear
Salina and Coldwater.
It's exciting. I unfortunately hear the music, and so can you stay on with us through the break?
Oh, man, I'll try.
Please. I'm dying to hear your story.
I got grandkids around the corner, so I'll try.
All right. Thanks, Steve. We'll be right back. A lot more. We need your call, 866-348-7884. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. What does it feel like to be persecuted? Unfortunately, Steve has got his grandkids, and I'm glad he's spending time with them. That's critical. Absolutely. Love grandkids. And the question of today is, what does it feel like to be persecuted? For righteousness' sake, right? How has that happened to you? When did you experience that in your life? We would love for you to call 866. Really love the stories. 866-348-7884. So Nick has been loading up his story. And so I know I'm personally anxious to hear. So Nick.
Yes.
Nick, what's it feel like to be persecuted for righteousness?
It sucks. It felt really bad, especially at a young age, because that's when it happened to me. This was years ago. I was maybe 7 or 8 or so. And for the summer, my mom, she would put me in like summer programs or summer camps or stuff like that. And there was this one this one church, and they and it was an interesting church. But I'm just gonna basically say I was really the only minority there, and it didn't, and I just went with the flow. I just went to, learn more about God during my summer, and we had good times. But for some reason, I was the only one that was getting in trouble. I never understood why I kept getting in trouble, and and because I remember the main thing I always got in trouble was for touching someone. Like giving them a high five or give them a hug or patting them on the back. I always got in trouble for it. And I never understood why I kept getting in trouble for it. And, when I was there, I would get the cold shoulder from the other kids that was there, and sometimes even the grown-ups that were there too, the chaperones or however you want to call it. And so basically they ended up kicking me out of the summer program. And I was like, I just didn't understand. And, they talked to my mom about it, and my mom, she defended me saying, didn't see anything wrong with it. There was nothing in the rules saying, oh, you can't touch people. However, there were other kids, they were giving each other high fives, they were hugging, and they had close contact, but I will always get in trouble for doing that. And I talked to my grandmother, and my grandma, she said, it's okay. At the end of the day, because I ended up spending the summer with her, and we had a great time. We went to church, early service on Sundays when I was with her, and that was something that was at a young age I learned about forgiveness and just letting go. And so the next year I went to another summer program, and it was also a Christian-based summer program, and I had a lot better time there. And there was a little bit more diversity than there was there, but the rules were not so strict. I didn't feel like it, and something that's always been in the back of my mind of just how that worked out. I don't know the full details of it, but that is what happened in my eyes.
Well, I would have gotten kicked out too, Nick, if it makes you feel any better. Because one of the things that I just absolutely love whenever I, either teach Sunday school or I am with groups, whatever, if I can give somebody a high five or that kind of thing, like, man, that's going to happen because
it's natural.
It's more than natural. It's uplifting. Like, man, that's what's supposed to happen.
Right. We would play outside games, and then I gave someone a high five, and then one of the counselors yelled at me. It was like, no touching, and then I was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, that just wasn't the place for me. I wasn't there. I just wasn't. It wasn't meant for me, and that's fine. I had a great time, and I still got closer to God the next year at the other summer program that I went to.
Right.
And it was an overnight program, so I got to camp out. So that was a lot more fun too.
Well, there's a fascinating thing, and again, if you got a story, this is your chance. We only got a few minutes left, and I want to hear it. 866-348. 7884 866-348-7884. So when you really look at this Greek word, dioko, I think it's pronounced in Greek, that this idea that it's in the perfect tense is telling you that you were persecuted actually from the moment you were born again. Why? Because our battle's not against flesh and blood, it's against spiritual forces in the high places. And so whether you realized it or not, Nick, those were some demons out there, and they knew, right, that these people had a slant that wasn't a good slant. And they were playing that like a fiddle in their minds and saying, you need to stop that. That's got to, And so they felt like, interestingly, just like the call that I'm trying to remember the caller, the lady that got so much trouble for saying bless you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Mike from doing it right. Those people feel like they're doing the right thing by taking you out, which just shows you how well the liar lies. I mean, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but most of all, he does that by lying. And it's amazing when you think about that idea that that's in this perfect tense. not only, and I love the idea that in Hebrew that this is their priority is to come after you. And their priority is to separate either you from God or to make sure that you don't influence anybody else for God. They're trying to get you to hide. I used to call this, and I love calling it, whack-a-mole, right? So Satan's out there looking for anybody who's, trying to be salt and light. Oh, I saw a little light on the horizon. Here comes Satan. He's going to whack-a-mole. Okay, but as long as you're hiding underneath the covers and your bushel is, your light's under a bushel basket, he's fine. But you pull that light out, here it comes, whack-a-mole, right? Because that glory starts to come out, and so he is, and he is going to be. But the beauty of it is, when you think about it, is how do you know when you're over the target if you're a bombardier? It's when you start getting a lot of flack, right? Mm-hmm. And so to my way of thinking, when I got that email, right, and I certainly searched my own heart to say, okay, maybe I needed to be more careful in saying that, I hear from Scripture a lot more than I hear from outside things about God. Maybe I need to be more careful of that. But overall, it's telling me not that this man, right, but I'm saying Satan was coming after me through this man. And there were other people undoubtedly that are coming after you, right? They're coming after you. And the reason that they're coming after you is because you've come out and of your hiding place, and you're saying have a blessed day on your email, or you're saying with the help of God in your phone message, or you're obviously giving glory to God, and whatever way you're doing it is totally offensive to the enemy, right? I mean, he hates you, and he will play in that person's mind, the person that doesn't know Christ, or that person who is listening to the wrong dad, so to speak, and he is going to play that fiddle in any possible way that he can do it, again, because what did he want Nick to do? He wanted Nick to hide. He wanted Nick to be bitter, right? But your grandma, right? God sent a grandma to say, Nick, we gotta forgive, right?
Oh yeah, so she did. That's definitely one of the things that she taught me, to forgive and to forgive. And she also told me, I might not be everyone's cup of tea. That just means I wasn't brewed for you.
I have never heard that.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of a Hebrews thing. It's right. That's Hebrews 1:1. So I may not be your cup of tea, but that just means I wasn't brewed for you. Oh, that's great. That's a grandma right there. That's and so fascinatingly, I like, how do you recall any part of that process of trying to forgive those counselors, people in authority? Because there you are, 7 years old, man. That's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I just forgive and forget. It's in the past. I'm in the present, looking towards the future. So, it is what it is. And it didn't take me long to, just because my grandma, she was like, that's just how, if they want to be like that, let them be like that. But that doesn't mean that you have to have that, negativity and keep that. Just because they try to put that in you, that doesn't mean that you have to keep it. So,
and you have discovered, since you've worked at Truth Broadcasting, that opportunities come along in ministry, right? Where Satan gets a hold of somebody, and next thing you know, man, nothing makes sense. How did this happen? I was just trying to help, right? Mm-hmm. And he gives us those opportunities to forgive, and right, just what you just said. I may not be your cup of tea.
I'm just not brewed for you.
I love that, man. Is your grandmother still with us?
She is still with us, and she's a light. She's a light. I love her. Yeah, I was spoiled by her for sure.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, is in God's way. That summer it was a lot more helpful being with Grandma than it was with the shenanigans there with no high fives here. Don't you touch another human being. Again, that's a division. Anytime somebody starts working on that stuff, that it's absolutely part of that. Like, oh my goodness. So obviously there's a sense that we have an opportunity here to obviously battle against it, but also in our own minds when we start to hear that voice saying, your sister is a little bit too good at this, to realize this could be the liar trying us to get in. So think about that. Pray about that this week. I had so much fun always being with you guys. Thanks for listening.
Another program powered by the Truth Network.